when they're all white, we'll know that it's on, right?
Because it's blue.
No? Okay. Well, then we might be on.
Waiting for everyone to take a seat. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is wonderful to see everyone as we come together as a community virtually for our second week. This is week number 2 of our virtual Shabbat, meaning Cantor Colman and I are here in the Julian Feibelman Chapel, and we are greeting all of you who are watching at home on your computers, tablets, phones, or TVs. We want to thank you for joining us. It feels a little strange to be in here without you, but we are picturing the smiling faces of our congregation who have come to join us as we celebrate Shabbat. So we're ready now to get in the mood for Shabbat. Hinei matov u'manayim shavlachim gam yachad. Behold how good and how pleasant it is when brothers and sisters sit together, dwell together, worship together, even if we're not under the same roof. We still come together to form this holy community tonight. We continue now the lighting of our Shabbat candles. As we light the candles, we are saying we are ready to put an end to this week, that we are ready to greet Shabbat. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light. So may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Wish me luck.
I didn't wish you luck. Good luck.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvoto, v'tzivonu lehadlikner shel Shabbat.
We continue now with the Kiddush, the sanctification of this Sabbath day. Your cup is right below.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hakafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvoto v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho ve'ahavahu katzon kinkilanu, zikaron le'maseh b'reishit, ki hu yom tachila l'mikra kodesh, zecher l'tzion Mitzrayim, ki banu v'charta v'yotanu kiddashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahavahu v'ratzon hikotanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen.
Please be seated. We begin on page 124 in our large Mishkan Tefillah prayer books. For those who are following along online, if you've clicked on the Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat, we're on page 6. This opening reading talks about entering a sanctuary. For the Cantor and for myself, that means our beautiful chapel. For those of you who are worshiping at home, your sanctuary is that place, that sacred space you find yourselves in right now. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door to whatever room we are in. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace, as well as healing and health, settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Page 127. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope. For Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living. For Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness. For Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. On page 142 in our prayer books, or on page 24, I think on the digital, we find our traditional Shabbat song of welcome, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Molechei HaShabbat, Molechei Yom, Mi Melech Molechei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Molechem L'Shalom, Molechei HaShalom, Molechei Elyon, Mi Melech Molechei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni L'Shalom, Molechei HaShalom, Molechei Elyon, Mi Melech Molechei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem L'Shalom, Molechei HaShalom, Molechei Elyon, Mi Melech Molechei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We are pleased that so many people joined us last week. We were told that the video was pretty good, the audio was pretty good, but that the two officiants were too close together. So we're going to try to practice better social distancing this Shabbat. As we invite you to rise as we join in the Baruch Hu, our call to worship. Continue in our Shabbat evening one service, the first service. We're on page 148 or on page 30 on the digital. Our prayer of creation, Mariv Aravi. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah potzeach she'arim, u'vidvuna meshaneh itim. ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. We continue on page 150. Ahavat olam, everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah, mitzvot, laws, and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We join together in the words of the Sherman. Continue on page 157, page 39 in the digital. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better way, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We continue with our song of freedom, Micha Mocha.
Micha Mocha, Vahei Matunai, Micha Mocha, Nedava Kodesh, Nor Tehilot, O Sefele, Nor Tehilot, O Sefele, Malchutecha, Adonai,
Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter, in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue on page 162. As we are reminded that those who keep Shabbat, whether at home, virtually, or here in the chapel, we shall all join together to call it Oned Shabbat, our joy, our delight in the Sabbath. Yismechu.
Yismechu v'molchutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oned Shabbat. Yismechu v'molchutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei, Oned Shabbat. Ve tach, ufi ati tequilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VeHanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chaskei Avot V'Imochot, U'Mevi Geulah Livnei B'neihem, L'man Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, V'chayei HaKol, Atah Rav L'Mashiach, V'chalkel Chayim B'chesed, V'mechayei HaKol B'rachamim Rachim, Somech Noflim V'rofei Cholim, U'matir Asurim, U'mekayem Emunato, L'shei Afar, Nichal Mocha B'Hakifurot, U'mito Melach, Melech Beinit, U'mechayem, U'matzmiach Yeshua, V'nei Manata, L'chakayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol, Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kedoshim B'chol Yom Yachalu Chasel Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated.
We continue now at the top of page 173, page 55 in the digital. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue now on page 175. O God, you are with us in our prayer, in our love, and our doubts, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. Let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch Atah Adonai, Shodcha Levadcha B'yirah Na'avod. We continue with our prayer for giving thanks. Even at moments like this, when we are in crisis, on Shabbat we pause to give thanks and to remember the blessings in our life. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch Atah Adonai, Atov Shimcha U'Lechana El Lehotot. We continue now with Shalom Rav, our prayer for peace. So we ask that God grant abundant peace to Israel, to us, to all the world.
Level
Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. We take a moment now, in the midst of all of this craziness, we pause for a moment of our own silent prayers. We turn now in our prayer books to page 371, page 253 in the digital. We turn to our prayers for healing. This Shabbat, healing is very much on our minds. This Shabbat, healing is very much on our minds. I don't think we can edit that out. We think of everything that's going on in our community, in our city, in our country, all over the globe. This Shabbat, we gather with our brothers and sisters everywhere as we pray for healing and for peace. I'm going to read a list of names of those who are ill, and I know it's an incomplete list, as I know that there are so many more in our community who are suffering. I want to remind you that I invite you to say those names out loud, and if you know of someone who is sick, or if you're sick, you would like the temple to reach out, I encourage you to call us, email us, let us know. We think of all of those at Lambeth House who are suffering through sickness as well as isolation and loneliness. We want them to know that we are thinking of them. I believe they might be live streaming our service there as well as tonight. In our congregational family, this Shabbat we think especially of Jack Zoller, Judy Schwartzer, Michael Bodo, Joan Tupman, Jerry Rawson, Michael Maples, Sheener Allen, Wendy Good, Ellen Lowenberg, Betsy Threefoot Caston. We think of all of those who are in hospitals, those who are at home, those who are suffering from this virus, as well as other diseases, as well as sickness of the heart, body, and soul. Oh God, we think of all those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength, because our prayers are linked with theirs. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeach Olim. We praise you, Adonai, source of healing and health, comfort and strength.
Help us find the
shared with me by one of my mentors. It's called A Prayer for the Health and Healing of Healers. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all those who put themselves at risk to care for the sick, physicians and nurses and orderlies, technicians and home health aides, EMTs, pharmacists, therapists. Bless all those who are our health workers, all who navigate the unfolding dangers of the world every day to tend to those they have sworn to help. Bless them in their coming home and bless them in their going out. Ease their fear, sustain them. Source of all breath, healer of all beings, protect them and restore their hope. Strengthen them that they may bring strength. Keep them in health that they may bring healing. Help them know again a time when they can breathe without fear. Bless the sacred work of their hands. May this plague pass from among us speedily and in our own days. As together we say, Amen. This week we turn to the third of our 5 books of the Torah. Of course, I'm referring to the book of, that's right, the book of Leviticus. In Hebrew, Vayikra, which is also the name of our Torah portion. Shai and Jana both instructed me to try to keep my remarks short. So guys, I'm going to try to oblige. Our Torah portion begins, Vayikra el Moshe, Vayidaber Adonai elav me'ohel moed lemor. God called to Moses and spoke to him there at the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting. Vayikra, and God called. That's not only the name of our Torah portion, but it's the Hebrew name for the book of Leviticus. Vayikra. And God called out. God called and then God spoke to Moses. And Moses was able to not only hear that call, but to heed the call. Moses answers by listening, ready to carry out the mitzvot, the instructions, the commands and teachings of God. From Vayikra, we get the idea of a calling. Throughout our lives, I believe there are many callings that we receive. Right now, I think that there's a special calling that we all need to pay close attention to and heed. And that's God calling on us to take care of ourselves and our community. We each have to do our part by heeding the warnings we've heard, by staying home, by doing everything we can to keep ourselves healthy, washing our hands, staying apart from one another, even though it's difficult. It's not easy to isolate ourselves at home. Our kids have been forced to abandon school and to do online classes. We're nervous every time we walk into a grocery store, the bank, when we do those necessities in our lives. But God has called on us, and it's time for us to heed that call and take care of ourselves and our community. Vayikra. Let's heed that call. Now here at the beginning of Leviticus, the subject is sacrifices. And here in painstaking detail, we read about the various types of sacrifices, along with all of the blood and guts that go with them. The sacrifices have some important rules for us, some important lessons. For our ancestors, that meant giving up something of value, giving up something in order to communicate with God, giving up something to say thank you or to say I'm sorry or ask for forgiveness. As we read the directions, the instructions for the sacrifices, we're also reminded these were active. It helped our people to actively participate, get involved in the life of the Jewish people by offering sacrifices. Again, I think these words are especially appropriate for us now. Each of us is asked to make sacrifices. as we change our routines, as we change the way we go about our day-by-day living. And sometimes we read about the sacrifices and say, what do they have to do with us, with me, right here, right now? Well, sometimes we have to give up something of value in order for something greater. The sacrifices remind us that we have to do Jewishly. We can't just be Jewish. We need to live Jewishly. We need to take an active part, an active role in our Judaism. Another very important lesson from the sacrifices. In order for the priests to offer the sacrifices, they had to be in a state of ritual purity, which required a lot of hand washing. And if they had hand sanitizer, they would have used that as well. So again, I want to remind you as we read from the beginning of Leviticus how important it is to keep our hands clean. Who may assemble? Who may approach the mountain of God? Those with clean hands and pure hearts. Like the priests of old, let us endeavor to keep our hands clean and our hearts pure. Now, the Hebrew word for sacrifices, a sacrifice is a korban. Sacrifices are korbanot. The root of the word korban, the kuf, resh, vet, is the same root for the word karov, which means near, or to come close to. For our ancestors, a very important part of the sacrifices, of the offerings, of bringing korbanot, was the idea of bringing people closer together. You couldn't offer a korban simply from home. You had to come together, you had to assemble at the tent of meeting, at the Mishkan, at our holy places. You needed to be a part of the people there in the presence of the priests in the Mishkan in order to bring your offering. And even more important, the korbanot brought us closer to God. By offering these korbanot, even in the middle of the wilderness, we felt that God was right there with us. Of course, this becomes an even greater challenge for us in times of social distancing, physical distancing. But connections today are just as important as they were for our ancestors there in the wilderness as they heeded God's call. We have to find new ways to connect, whether we're connecting right now through our computers, through the internet, whether we're connecting by calling friends and family members. The idea of the offerings was to bring us closer as one community, and we need to strive to find ways right now to form that community. Again, just because we can't physically be together, it doesn't mean that we can't be there for one another. That's our challenge at this time, and that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to allow our korbanot, our offerings of today, to bring us closer, to help us connect, to bring us closer to God. Long ago, we replaced the physical sacrifices, taking the offerings of the animals and meal offerings. We replaced them with the offerings of our hearts and our hands. Today, we come to God with our prayers, with our actions. We study and try to take God's lessons and make them into our actions. That's how we serve God. Those are the korbanot that we bring. I want to share with you the powerful words from the prophet Micah, who reminds us that sacrifices are not an end, but rather a means. So Micah asks, with what shall I approach Adonai, do homage to God on high? Shall I approach God with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Would God be pleased with thousands of rams, with myriads of streams of oil? No, that's not what God is looking for. Rather, God has told you what is good and what God requires of you. Only to do justice, to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God. That's our challenge. In these days of the pandemic, as we look out for our own welfare, the welfare of our community, our city, our state, our country, and the world, we need to find ways to do justice, love goodness, walk humbly with God. When we do this, we connect as a community. By sharing what we have with others, by not hoarding when we go grocery shopping, by remembering to look out for those who are in need. These are the acts of justice. This is loving goodness. This is walking humbly with our God. When we let people know we're thinking of them, even when we can't be under the same roof, as we're doing right now, and as we've been doing this past week and beyond, and as we will be doing in the next several weeks. May the sacrifices inspire us to work for the greater good. May they remind us of the importance of our actions and our words. May we always put our best foot forward and truly bring the offerings of our hearts. May they inspire us as we heed God's call, now and always. Amen.
Amen.
We turn now to our concluding prayers, beginning with Aleinu on page 586, or in the digital version, page 282, and we rise.
Aleinu l'shabbat l'tov l'hakol l'tekinu l'ayotze brishi shelo asanu k'goyei ha'ratzo v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam k'alkeinu k'hem v'goroneinu k'chol hamonam v'anachnu polim u'mishtachavim u'motim lifnei melech mokei hamlachim ha'kadosh baruch hu.
Please be seated. We continue on page 589. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai, the melech of kol haaretz, vayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. Page 593. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. As we mourn the loss of Mike Berkey, we are in Shloshim for Samuel Ted Alkis III, Beverly Kaplan, Joel Mish, Pearl Schreiber. And we think of those who died of disease in years past, those who we've taken into our hearts with our own, as we lovingly recall the yard site of Laz Aaron, Morris Barton, Frida Benowitz, Isidore Bograd, Esther Rubens Braun, Bernice Ray Brill, Louis S. Fazendi, Harry Harris, Marie D. Sloss-Hart, Jimmy Hyman, Alice Levy-Hiller, Henry S. Jacobs, Charles Coffin Kahn, Charles Newman Kahn, Ruth Kern, Fanny Aaron Loeb Kreider, Jules Lazard, Effie Aronson Lehman, Tilly Hausman Levy, Viola Lowengarten, Josephine Mayer, Janet Mayer, Margaret Mostier, Melville B. Myers, Louis Rosenbaum Jr., Donald Jesse Rosenfeld, Lucille Felsenthal Schlenker, Elena Sinai, Rachel Watsky, Dr. C. Herman Weinberg. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be an everlasting blessing. As we rise now as one community, as we join together in the words of Kaddish Yatom on page 598 or page 294 in the digital. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'almat yivrach yirkutzei v'yamlich malchutzei, v'chayechon of yomechon, v'chayetecho beit Yisrael, v'agalav izman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam ulam me'er al maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei t'kudashah b'rechu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da amiram v'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shlomo rabba min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom v'romav, v'yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen.
V'yimru, v'yimru, v'yimru.
We're so glad that you could join us this Shabbat. From home, from wherever you are, you're here with us in our chapel right now. I want to thank Tracy and Mike Todd, who lovingly donated these flowers in honor of their daughter Lily, who was to have become a bat mitzvah this Shabbat. We regret that over the next few weeks we have many life cycle moments that we were looking forward to celebrating that we've had to push back, to postpone. A reminder that the temple building is closed these days. We are available online through our website. You can reach us through email. You can leave us a voicemail message, and we will be checking the voicemail regularly. We hope that you will go to the website, go to Facebook. We hope that you will read our weekly email blasts so that you know what's going on, what's been canceled, and what's still happening here at Temple. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, we're going to try something new. We regularly have Torah study, which meets in the library at 9. Tomorrow morning, we're going to begin again our study of Torah, but we're going to do it online. So through Zoom. So the directions were in the weekly e-blast. If you go to the website under Saturday, March 28th, if you see where it says Torah study at 9, if you click on the details, it will take you to the link so that you can follow along through Zoom. This is an experiment for us. The advantage of doing it through Zoom as opposed to live streaming like we do our services, our goal is to make it more participatory so that we'll be able to see one another and to really discuss and learn from each other. That's our goal. We're going to try to see if we can get it to work tomorrow, and if it works, we will do it next week as well. Our service, our Shabbat morning service, will begin at 10:15 here in the chapel. We will be live streaming once again. On Sunday morning, this Sunday at 10 a.m. again, Chavarat Sinai, our religious school, has been canceled for now. But we will have, we've been talking about ways to help folks connect. So at 10 a.m., we're calling it Sinai Connect. It's a chance for you to be a part of an online community with myself and Cantor, with Liz, with Avital, with Tracy, with each other. So again, it's through Zoom. You can get there through our website and through the e-blast that went out yesterday morning. Again, we want you to join us online. We'll talk, we'll sing, we'll answer questions, we'll hear suggestions as we talk about what we're doing as a congregation in these difficult times. Again, that's this Sunday morning, March 29th, beginning at 10 a.m. And for those who are participating in Limud, again, we had to cancel the Limud Fest for New Orleans, but there is a digital Limud that is happening this Sunday. It begins at 11 a.m., 12 noon Eastern. You can get there through their website, and there are some fascinating classes that will be happening this Sunday beginning at 11 a.m. Again, so much of what we've had scheduled for March and April has been canceled. This coming Wednesday was supposed to be our annual sisterhood event for our seniors. That has been postponed. We hope to reschedule. We're beginning to get ready for Passover. Again, we had to cancel our congregational starim here at Temple, but Avital has been putting together resources. There's a lot that we can do to help you have your Seder at home. Again, I hope that you will continue to check our website and email messages as throughout this coming week we're going to start putting out information to help get us ready for Seder. Again, we're so glad that you could join us. If you're not well, if you know someone who is sick, if you know someone who is isolated, someone who could use our reaching out, I hope you'll let us know here at Temple. Let us know, let me know, let Cantor know, call the Temple office, email us as we'd like to reach out. I want to thank all of our congregants, all of our leadership, and members of our caring committee who have been calling to members of our congregation. Know that we're thinking of you. We miss seeing you, and we're very concerned for you. We want to be here for you. We're going to conclude our service now with our prayer for peace, Oseh Shalom, as we pray for peace for us, for our families, for our congregation, for our community, for our beloved city and state and country. Please join us in Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom.
Our community, our city, our state, our country, and all those who serve and protect us, all those who are working to keep people well. May God bless the land and people of Israel and all the world and all who are suffering with the blessing of healing, the blessing of Sabbath peace. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.